In the early 80s, when MIDI came around and computers became more accessible and drum machines and things like that, we started quantizing on music. And that changed the tone and the feel of 80s music. Drum machines took over and music became rather stiff and maybe too precise. But now we have way more possibilities and techniques to use not only quantization as a correction tool, but to actually apply it in a more human and in a much more interesting way. There's so much you can do with it. Let's take a look. Welcome back. In a previous video, we covered how we can use quantization as a corrective tool as well as a creative tool. All the way from fixing things that are rhythmically not aligned to adding a certain feel or flair to it. But to keep it simple, we focused only on MIDI because this is where it's all started with the event of drum machines, sampling, and digital music in general. But how does it affect parts that are not MIDI, that are real recordings or audio loops? So if I would bring in an audio loop, I can't just go in the piano roll and I can't just move parts around. I could cut it up. But we have something called flex time, which does a very similar thing. If I click on Command F or this button up here and turn on flex for this, I see the subpositions. Here I can go in there and manually change something. But carefully it changes everything, like an accordion afterwards as well. Or I can say, go to the lower half, it creates 3 transient markers here, and I can just move one note because it locked in left and right here. So if I want this, I can move things around. I can also, now that's in flex, quantize it like MIDI. So what do we have here? We had 16 with 54. Let's try the same thing. 16 notes. Be aware that if I bring in audio, this was slowed down from 126 to 82. It's not the best sounding loop anymore. So let's bring in another loop here and see if we can mess with this one here. I'm just gonna cut the second half off here for a moment, and we're gonna turn on flex. And first we're gonna see what happens if I quantize this the same way. 16 note, 54. As opposed to, you can hear that it's very precise, 16 notes, but if I go it's kind of cool. But let's go a step further. So now we know we can quantize audio the same way we did it with MIDI, which again, use with discretion and see if they fit together. But alignment is the key. You need to have one leader, one rhythmical leader, and saying, this is kind of the vibe I'm going to go by, and then pull the other one towards that. It gets a little different if I import or work with real live loops or live recordings, or for that matter, let's go to world loops. Let's go to genre. Try to find something that is not from our Western side of the music spectrum, but a little bit more free. So it's going to go world, and we're going to go percussion. Because sometimes it's nice to add other elements that are not so predictable. I can addition this. Adds maybe a nice little unpredictable flavor to it. And let's listen to this. How this goes along. So what choices do I have? I can quantize this. I can force it into something strict, 16. So I still have the sonic element of the world drum, Indian drum here, but I'm going to lose the original feel of the player. But it locks really nicely with the rest. So that's one way to go. Okay, we could approach it very differently too. This works nicely when you have live players, you like the performance, and you want to extract the feeling of that. So I could go here and say, extract the feeling of this loop per se, and then apply it to the rest of the MIDI and audio tracks and regions. How do we do that? We're going to go to this track, we're going to turn on flex, and then we're going to analyze this loop here. So the sounds, we're not going to change this, we're going to say keep this and find out where these little hits inside that groove happen. We call this a groove template. Once we make a groove template, we can go to other tracks and apply to it. Let's start with a MIDI track. This is a kick snare. We're going to take this off now, the quantization, and we're going to find this groove template down here. You see that's the same name as this, and now it's changed the position. You saw the notes flying around here. Let's see what happens. That's cool. Okay, let's see what it sounds like with the other beat here. If I take this and force it into the Indian pattern. I think I leave the shaker. If I change this, let's see what happens. Just and there you have it. It follows this. Does everything work? No, but you come up with new patterns this way that you wouldn't have thought about because you extracted something from a real drummer or from a world percussion loop, let's say, that does not have maybe your conventional 16-note pattern or feeling. And that way, you have a whole new palette of rhythms. So find something that's interesting rhythmically and apply it to your other parts and see what happens. And that is quantization applied in a musical form. I hope this helps you. I hope this gave you some new ideas. You can go all the way from very strict quantization correction to swing, to loose quantization strength, all the way to extracting the feeling of a existing loop, of a live loop, and apply it to other parts. Thanks so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. If you want to dig deeper, feel free to check out my Udemy course, where I start from the very beginning of writing a song to the end of production and take you step by step through the process. Thanks so much and have a great day. No matter what, stay unapologetically creative.